Welcome to the Inklet Press Podcast,
where we press into the ink together.
Today we explore storytelling, why it matters, how it shapes us, and how imagination lets us co-create in a world that swings like a pendulum.
From Oxford pubs to TikTok feeds, stories have shaped the way that we view ourselves and the world. So, from Oxford pubs to TikTok feeds, stories have always been a part of our lives, and they shape the way that we think and the world around us.
Picture this. Oxford 1930s. A group of writers called the Inklings. C.S. Lewis, J.R.R. Tolkien, Charles Williams gather in pubs, libraries, and gardens. They read unfinished stories aloud, argued ideas, critiqued each other, and shaped the worlds that still influence our imagination today.
So, talking about like how stories like influence and shape like the world around us and our imagination. Back then, what do you think were some of the like themes that like really motivated the storytelling?
What do you mean by back then? Like the Inklings, or
Yeah.
back then?
No. Well, let's not go back that far. But for like the Inklings, you know, like we have these stories like Narnia and like Lord of the Rings and a few others. Like, what are some of these themes that really shaped the worlds that they built? For example, the first that comes to my mind, like in Narnia, you have that theme of sacrifice. Like Aslan the lion, he like gives up his life, and you know, through these stories, like different like lessons are learned about like courage and like, of course, you know, sacrifice and humility and stuff like that. Earlier today, you had mentioned to me that when you were younger, you watched a lot of cartoons, and they tended to be pretty like jarringly straightforward with the moral messages, where it was just like unrelatable and it didn't feel like authentic. What do you think made like the Inklet storytelling so special, where like those messages were able to be received?
Well, the Inklings were a special group of people, and I don't know if anybody could ever recreate it again, because I think there was really nothing like them before or after. So you had C.S. Lewis, who was like the head of it, and he would just hound everybody and tell them to write their things and encourage everybody to finish what they were writing, for example. And I think without him, you wouldn't have had the Inklings, for one thing. So the Inklings were also special because of the stories that they left behind for us. Like you mentioned, Tolkien's The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings. Now, I wanted to go back even further back.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so imagine what it was like before they even had paper. How were stories carried from generation to generation?
Well, oral tradition was like a huge thing in a lot of different cultures. So
yeah, I can imagine people would just sit around the fire telling stories.
Yeah.
And they would basically tell them what happened with their ancestors and their ancestors. And that was storytelling, and myth and truth was always mixed together in that.
That's really interesting. And there's a community aspect in that I really like that idea of sitting around the campfire, or like the Inklets like sitting around in their, I don't know, wherever they are, and that exchange of ideas is really cool.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It is something we're missing today. And if we're going to fight for storytelling, you should go after certain aspects of storytelling that are very important. For example, you have like the Inklings fantasy books that they did, like Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. It's not just fantasy. but it's a meditation on courage, sacrifice, and friendship forged in battle.
Well, it's funny that idea of forged in battle, like you're talking about old, way back when, and I'm thinking of like warriors or like hunter-gatherer tribes and stuff like that, and even like that mythological aspect. Like, I slayed a bear with my bare hands, and that story gets passed down through generations, and a kid grows up hearing about how his grandfather displayed courage through like this great feat, and over time maybe that story gets huge, and now it's no longer a bear. Yeah, now it's like a five-headed dragon or something crazy like that. But even so,
happened, I'm sure.
Yeah, even so, it still carries like that moral weight, though.
For sure. Yeah, like Grandpa embellishing about what he did in his past. I'm sure happened a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's funny though, like
4 bears with my own hands.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just imagining what it would have been like.
Yeah, but even with all the like fantastical details and stuff, like the essence of the story isn't lost, and you can definitely see that in the Lord of the Rings and like Narnia, like you said. Like these stories were meant to tell messages of like courage and like these different like themes that we all need today.
Definitely. Even fairy tales do this. Even myths and fairy tales do this. Like Hansel and Gretel. Resourcefulness and resilience. That simple fairy tale.
Yeah.
The Odyssey. Heroism, patience, human nature. Every story trains imagination and moral thinking.
Yeah, definitely. Trains imagination and moral thinking. That's deep. What do you think stories today train? Like, not to segue too much, but like, if the purpose of a story is to like form our view of the world and ourselves, like in older times, stories formed like these the moral compass in a sense, or like these like deeply rooted ethos. But like today, like what are we forming? What message are we telling?
So there's definitely a lot of those qualities in the storytelling that we see today, which of course is a lot more on screen than in books, on screen or audio or video games. Yeah. But I think sometimes when people don't take the time to stop consuming so much, then it'll show up in things that are created.
Yeah, it does. So like given that like you can like tell I'm trying to think how to word this. Like given that you can kind of get a grasp on like a writer's like environment based on how they're writing, what do you think is the anatomy of a story? Like what are like the building blocks of a story that make all this possible?
Well, you of course have the plot, which is the basic outline of a story. And I was surprised with our writing group at the beginning, how many people didn't really know what that was. Thought it was. But you start with the introduction of the story and the building blocks, characters, settings, and then it builds into this basically, what would you call it? Crescendo? Where there's like a hill that's going up, and then you come to the climax, which is the most important part of the story, where things change, or things are almost concluded, or there's a surprise, or and then you have a conclusion or concluding thoughts. I'm sure there's a more scientific term for each one of these, but so basically you're just climbing up a hill, climax, and then go back down, conclude the story, and then end.
Yeah, I think about like the climax in Narnia when Aslan is killed and everybody's sad and they're crying and it's like, oh my gosh, like the hero, he's gone. And it's like at that moment, it's like the audience doesn't know what's coming next. And then right after that, you get the reveal where it's like, okay, he's come back to life, and then you have like that restful conclusion of the good guy trumping the bad guy. In today's like storytelling, like you said, there's so many different formats. We have like movies, video games, books, poetry, all the above. Um, Even like the simplest thing, like a 20-second TikTok reel, you can find like those same elements.
Right. The
Um,
same idea of what a plot is.
yeah. I think earlier I was talking to you about like skateboarding and how there was a skateboard channel that I used to watch. And they would put out these reels of a guy like fighting to get this trick. And like you would see like the setup, the obstacle, whatever it is. He rolls up, he tries it, he fails, and he does it over and over and over. And then there's a point where like he changes his approach. And that's like the climax where it's like, okay, like he does it and it works. And then you have like the conclusion, he rolls away and everybody cheers. It's like even the simplest mundane things, you still have like the basic elements of storytelling.
Yeah, you can write a 10-book saga or put it in a 10-second video on TikTok. Problem, conclusion, or solution. Yeah, but I think there's still those aspects, the quality aspects of it. What made you get to that point in the story? So, what you were saying before, I think there really is something missing storytelling today. So, a lot of the movies you go see are more about CGI than the story. So, they want to show their special effects and make sure they're catching everybody's attention. And they lose the story, and everybody knows it. Everybody knows that a lot of things coming out of Hollywood are trash.
Yeah.
But I mean, not. Oh, I'm sorry.
Watch out, Hollywood! She's throwing shots.
There's some like really great things. There's really great movies, and they're getting creative. But
sure they are.
But like for example, do you know of a good rom-com that's come out lately?
I can't say that I do.
That's one area that
there's definitely an art to rom-coms because like you're dealing with like the merging of two different genres rather, and like you said, there's definitely something that's missing. I think there's a lot of artistry in the creation of a story, and with things being so fast-paced nowadays, it's all about production. You kind of lose that like patience and that time to really meditate and like you know I don't know, just get in that space where you can like try new ideas and experiment and maybe fail, but like keep that authenticity.
I think what's missing is the people that are writing these, I don't know, movie scripts or whatever. I think they don't have quietness, or they don't have time to really think of a good storyline, or they don't have the right friends. They don't have the right setting where they can. Maybe creativity isn't the word, because they are creative, having fun. Think about Pixar. I think where they create their stories, they have their offices like filled with fun things to do, or like
things that stimulate your imagination. Yeah,
and that's great. I mean, but the quietness is missing, because one of my friends told me once that writes children's books, that if you're consuming, you're not creating. And that's kind of what's happening, I think, and that's what we're seeing today, and that's why we don't have the same quality of storytelling that we had back then.
That kind of makes sense. Like if you're consuming, you're not creating, like, and there's a difference between like, I don't know, sharing a story and like doing it because, I don't know, maybe it's your job, and then just like mass producing things for the sake of, I don't know, notoriety or like something like that. Or like, if earlier we were talking about the Inklings, and they had their group and they had their manager who like was on top of them, like, hey, we got to produce, but it's still a community.
Dude, I don't think of C.S. Lewis as a manager at all.
Yeah.
I've never thought of him that way, but could be.
Yeah, it's all good. you guys as the audience, I really think that that might be something you want to try. Like, just take a day off, or take half a day, or whatever amount of time you have, and like open up a book, put away your phone. So you heard that, folks. Physical books, ebooks don't count. We don't hate ebooks. We love ebooks, but this is a day to get tactile, get into the old, crinkly pages, crack open the dusty book, and press into the ink.
Yeah, thanks for joining us for episode 1. And that kind of just concludes our first ever Inklet Press podcast show.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing you guys next time. Hopefully we'll be uploading these in video sometime soon. And we'll keep you up to date about what platforms those will be on. But until next time, press into the ink.
And in the next episode, we'll be talking a little bit about the political pendulum and how it swings and what that means in storytelling. So you don't want to miss it.